Since I started writing my manga in 2023, I've created over 30 characters that'll appear throughout the first arc of my story, and let me tell you, it hasn't gotten any easier for me. But I found 3 unusual strategies that I wish I'd discovered sooner because they've helped me to truly create unique characters that aren't just copies of me, Fifi. So let me explain the first strategy so you can eliminate the idea block that usually hits us when we first attempt to design and draw a new character. This one hilariously was born basically out of satire in 18th century France. A guy named Etienne de Silhouette had the incredibly interesting hobby of, you guessed it, cutting up paper shadow portraits, or what became known as silhouettes. Silhouettes in character design have become synonymous with creating strong and recognizable characters, all because it depends on those characters having strong shapes and poses. Shapes and poses that you might not otherwise think of using if not for the silhouette, mind you. The idea here is that with a silhouette, you see no further detail about a character. No hair color, no clothing style, facial expression. So your innate design bias, which often pushes us towards making things more like us, become a hindrance because they'll likely cause an unremarkable silhouette. Use silhouettes to push you to experiment with shapes and poses that you never have before at the first step of your character design process, and you'll find yourself creating characters that stand wholly apart from yourself in appearance and look and pose in ways that you didn't even think yourself possible of creating. Now, let's move on to the next strategy, which has allowed me to write incredibly exciting and immersive dialogue, which doesn't sound at all like how I talk, and probably helped a lot with the current performance of my manga online. So let me explain how this pretty straightforward hack works. Here's the simple yet effective trick. Read your dialogue aloud. Yes, that's it. Pay close attention to how it sounds as you speak the words. Does it flow naturally from your lips, matching your own cadence and tone? If so, chances are your characters might be sounding a little bit too much like you. The goal here is to create distinct voices, each with their own unique flavor. By consciously listening to your dialogue, you can catch instances where your character's speech patterns mirror your own. This awareness empowers you to adjust and refine, and ensure that each character that you create speaks authentically and distinctly, which I think adds a lot more richness to your scenes and how your characters interact via dialogue. It's a simple practice, yet one that can yield absolutely significant results in crafting characters that feel like their own person on the page. When I was going through the first chapter of my comic, I made sure to read the dialogue back and forth between myself and between my characters. What I found is originally the dialogue was very stiff. It was very plain, and it just kind of read like how I was hearing my own voice in my head. After several changes of reading it out loud, I started to kind of get a feeling for how each of my characters individually talk. And when I read the dialogue out loud after those changes, it started to feel a lot more individualized, and that's exactly what you want. Okay, let me explain the last strategy that I wish I knew, and this one was one of the hardest for me. But not getting it right will seriously affect the characters that you make in a way that your audience definitely will not love. Take a look at the character in this page. He's serious, not very expressive. He looks to be some kind of officer or some sort of high-ranking official. And he also looks like he doesn't really take crap from anyone. Now look at this picture. This is his mom, me. And I assure you that I'm definitely not a high-ranking officer of any kind, and I absolutely take a lot of people's crap on the daily. I am nothing like this character, not in career aspirations, not in expression, and I think I get a lot more sleep than he looks to. The truth is, it's hard to avoid the fact that our characters often wind up becoming amalgamations of ourselves. But one way to really push beyond this is to give your characters careers, motivations, and ideals that are exceptionally different from your own. Like, actively try to make them as different from you as you can. Number one, you never go as far as you think you do when reading your own writing back to yourself. And number two, you create a much more vivid cast for your work by doing this. Another way that you could exploit this hack is by really drilling in on your villains. Most of us have pretty good moral sensibilities, right? So some of us often find it's hard to write villains who are so sometimes morally reprehensible. But this is a really good practice for making characters that are really different from yourself. So you can really drill this hack in by doubling down when you're writing your villain characters for your comic. And those were all the hacks on how to create characters that are nothing like yourself. If that's all you wanted, then you're free to go. Bye. Love you. See you next time. But if you want to know why all of that even matters in the first place and what it has to do with creating amazing characters for your comic, then we're going to talk about it right now in an unscripted Fifi rant. So it's my belief that characters are the absolute cornerstone to a good story. Good characters can instantly reel an audience in. It gives them something to attach to, emotional stakes, things they can see themselves in. And it's a really easy way without any sort of convoluted plot element to get people hooked on your work. So when you're writing characters, you want to give them the best opportunity to stand out. You want to give them the best opportunity to create that emotional connection between the audience. And you won't do that if every single one of your characters is a little mini me of yourself. So don't get me wrong, this takes practice. It's not easy. You really have to assess yourself and then keep in mind those aspects of yourself every time you make a new character. And one way that I think is really good to practice this for first-time writers, or if you're first working on your webcomic, is to write fan fiction. Fan fiction is great because you don't have to create anything new. No new world, no new setting, no new characters. Everything is already determined. What you can do is take those characters that you know how they're supposed to be and try writing their dialogue. This can help you exercise that muscle of getting used to writing dialogue from characters that don't talk anything like you. And like I said, I believe that characters are absolutely the hallmark of a good story. So nailing this is only going to give you a better chance to have a lot more people interested in your work. So that was my last little tidbit. Thank you for sticking around. If you did, if you liked this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more writing and storytelling tips and hacks for folks who are out there creating their own web comics or manga. That's what I talk about on this channel. Also, if you'd like to check out chapter 1 of Ye Olde Treehouse, my manga, it's available now on Global Comix, the best web comics platform on the net. And I'd love your support in checking it out. Until next time, bye.